Hello, class. Today we will be learning about Tay-Sachs disease. What is Tay-Sachs disease? That is a good question. One could consider Tay-Sachs disease to be many things. Ultimately, it's a genetic disease caused by a recessive trait. You've lost me. What do you mean by it's caused by a recessive trait? This is what leads back to genetics. A recessive disorder, such as Tay-Sachs disease, is caused by the passage of two recessive alleles, one given from each parent, who are consequently carriers in this case. The rate of death of Tay-Sachs disease is usually around up to 4 years old to as early as infancy. Are you going to tell us what Tay-Sachs disease does or what it is caused by? Patience, my friend. Tay-Sachs disease is when brain lipids fail to break down in small infants, inevitably causing death. The fatty acid that builds up is called ganglioside GM2, and this buildup is caused by a dysfunction in an enzyme called beta-hexominidase A. Basically, this disease is caused by an enzyme that fails to break down lipids in the brain. Generally, this is caused by a mutation in the hex gene. And keep in mind that this terrible disease is caused by one small mutation in the genetic code. Well, not to be offensive, but what if it's contagious? That's the point of stating that something is genetically inherited. The only way you could have Tay-Sachs disease is if both of your parents were carriers of it. Otherwise, it can't affect you. To add to that, as I've said before, the rate of death is somewhere around 4 years old. Although, there are some rare cases of it in which adults around 30 years old will have it. Nonetheless, you're out of that range, so I wouldn't worry about it. Can it be, cured? Sadly, it can't be. We can do very little to help or prevent this disease, but we can only assist a person with this disease to make them more comfortable. What can you do if you can't cure it? We can at least help ease the symptoms. Of these include seizures, blindness, excessive mucus buildup in the lungs, and mental retardation. Anticonvulsants help control seizures, and a feeding tube is used to assist people to eat, so that food or liquids do not get into their lungs. Isn't there some way to stop it before it starts? Not to stop it, necessarily, unless you get a test done to find out what genes you carry, and if they'll be passed on. In already living children, an optometrist can check to see if a person in suspicion has what's called a cherry red spot on the back of their eyes, which is a characteristic of this disease. Tests can also be conducted while the baby is still in the womb, including what is called amniocentesis and chorionic villus sampling. And what do those words mean? Like I've said, there are ways to test a child or fetus in the womb for Tay-Sachs disease. Amniocentesis is when they take a needle and use it to extract amniotic fluid, so then they can test the DNA in it. The other test is called chorionic villus sampling, and that's where they extract some of the placenta's tissue, and they can use it for karyotyping. Chorionic villus sampling is done when the baby is a fetus, at which point, if it turns out it does have Tay-Sachs disease, it can be aborted. In amniocentesis, that's not so much the case. Why? Yeah, why can't we prevent such an awful thing from happening if they can just use a different method of testing? It is simply because until the baby is fully developed, or close to it, the amniotic fluid does not contain enough of its DNA for testing. That's just awful. Though it is the world we live in, I'm afraid. Rest assured, many scientists and physicians around the world work to try to find a cure for this disease. Maybe one day there will be a cure. And until then, we wait and hope. Be cautious of what the risks are for passing your genes on to your children. Be aware of this. Are there any other ways to classify who has it? Maybe based on some sort of phenotype? Actually, you'd be surprised. Tay-Sachs disease is prevalent among Jews, particularly the Ashkenazic Jews, at a rate of about one out of every 3,600 children that are born. It's strange how some diseases are so racial like this. But that's beside the point. Are there any more questions? I don't have any. I'm good. Very well then. Class dismissed.